Brain Central, how are you, man? It's been a couple of years, I think, at least a year.
It's been a hot minute. I've been doing well, though.
Yeah?
You weren't doing well before. But someone asked who the guest was going to be tonight, and I said it was you. And they were like, yeah, that's the guy who and I'm like, the guy who had like an entire life breakdown. You're like, yeah, him. yeah, him.
You gotta like kind of do it lightly. Yeah, it's like pretty much I was coming from like full mental breakdown and like alcoholism, which was I got a year sober, so
it's
that's
great,
a positive thing.
Nice. You have the chip? Are you doing AA?
Oh yeah, I get the gold coins. I got to start framing them or something.
Wait, do you have one nearby?
Nah, make a bracelet out of them. Make a little charm bracelet out of them.
Nearby.
You'd have to destroy it.
I would probably have to go.
No, you wear it to bars and you get women to like. Take you out. You get women to like, and you'd be like, "This, I haven't had a drink," and then you get the lady to take you out of there to save you from the alcohol.
Right. Please save me from myself. I'm not in the right place.
Kyle has one just when you want to pretend.
If you bring your AA chip to a bar, do they give you free water?
No, that's what the Purple Heart's for. Woody. I got that too.
Yeah.
I'm already wearing that.
That's Kyle's hookup tip. Always keep a 2-year chip and a Purple Heart in your pocket, so that if you pass by an AA meeting and there's a hot girl in there, you can be like, hell yeah.
Yeah. If they call you out on the Purple Heart, you show them the chip, and they're
flip through your chips until you have a higher one. I'm 10 years sober. How about that?
4 years.
Yeah, I could teach you a thing or two. Well, that's great, man. A year sober.
I feel
that's
like
wonderful.
NA is the place where most people go to hook up, though, because it's all like younger people in NA. Like AA, I walk into a room and it's mostly like 4 80-year-olds who have like 40 years sobriety. I'm like, who the fuck is this kid in his 20s? What are you doing? You should be partying right now. You're still too young for this.
This is the worst hookup tips ever. You want to get yourself a junkie? I got tips for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I 4 80-year-old men with your name on them.
I dated right out of rehab, so it's not like I necessarily did that entire thing correctly. But that was my first rehab in which I relapsed. So if you want to know a route in which not to get sober, it's date the person you found in rehab. It's a pretty quick route to
because you know that you both love to do drugs.
Like, was she there for the same drug too?
No, that was the thing that I thought we were good on. Like she was like a meth user, I was like an alcoholic. So I thought it like offset each other.
Kind of like a Disney
offset. But the equation didn't work.
I have to know, like, when you go to these addiction meetings, is there like a social hierarchy based on what you're addicted to? Like, are you an alcoholic? You know what? Alcoholics is kind of pedestrian compared to my men.
That was how rehab was. It was like everyone was in there for opiates, and I was doing 0.5 ounces of Coke a day. You walk in like I drank a lot of vodka, and everyone's like, "What?" It's like that Dave Chappelle skit where he walks in for weed. Like, I'm addicted to smoking pot. And he's like, I suck dick for whatever, for crack. What are you here? So it is that hierarchy thing where your first few years, you're almost like not necessarily even recognized as being sober. It's like, he's going to go back out. He'll find his way. And then you hit like a year and people are like, all right, he might be taking this seriously. There's weird hierarchies in that, and there's weird dating situations. It pretty much is in the younger circles, mostly just for hookups. Because it's really fucking hard to date as a 20-year-old that doesn't drink. Like, I can't go to a bar necessarily, and most social situations are like bowling alleys or whatever where people are drinking. So if I go to an AA meeting, it's like, 1, hopefully the person is actually trying to get sober, and 2, we have the same interest and we aren't going to be going to a bar. So
you said NA is kind of the younger person one. Can you not, if your problem is just with alcohol, are they like, you should probably go to AA, not NA? Or are they like, take alcohol?
Yeah.
So if you like switch to that, maybe the cooler group?
I think they see it as alcohol is a drug no matter what. And that's kind of like the overclassing thing. So you can there's actually groups for everything. Like Overeaters Anonymous and Marijuana Anonymous.
That's not quite so anonymous. We know.
We can tell.
Wow, what's happening? Wow, is there a triathlete meetup going on here? What's happening?
They actually have to hold those ones in the basements.
Ties into something I was thinking. Like, have you taken your rehab skills and applied them to other places? Does it help you with diet and exercise and career?
To a degree. I found when I first got sober, I was really struggling with depression, and it was like the kind of depression that I like couldn't get out of bed. So
mushrooms are good for that.
I've heard that. I've heard a lot of like the psychedelic experiences can help.
You come to me, I got tips.
You know what can fix that? Drug. Is Woody's advice to you?
I think they say the leader of AA, like 10 years sober, ended up trying LSD. And I'm sure that was like he created some crazy program and wanted to connect with the universe to try to figure out how he came to the idea of creating this program. So I think there is a layover between like hallucinogenic specifically and
Are you
addicts.
religious?
You know, I have my own spirituality. Like I believe in a God. I believe in the idea of God, but I think that every religion has its own, you know, applicable goods.
So do you ever conflict? Do you ever conflict with the parts of AA that are so heavily based upon like Christianity?
Yeah, and there's Cat just jumped on my keyboard. Am I still here?
Yeah,
you're still here.
Okay. Yes. So there's actually groups specifically for people that are atheists, and there's groups for people that aren't necessarily, you know, directly religious in the normal ways. And actually, in like the AA doctorate, it says that they're not associated with any denomination, sect, or organization. So if it is, you know, being forced down your throat from the religious aspect, they're not staying true to the actual, you know, rules, to the principles.
Fair. Yeah, I just know that it's you know the guy who like founded AA, that was a big part of it for him, clearly.
Right,
because I know the higher power part where they're like, it can be whatever God you want, but like it's got to be a higher power. Like you have to turn yourself over. Isn't that right?
Right. So the idea of AA, it basically they took an Oxford group, which was a religious group that tried to get people forcibly sober. This was during the, you know, like alcohol prohibition era. So it was a temperance movement that was basically fully religious. Like you had to believe in God. You had to surrender to the idea of like the Catholic or whatever, the Baptist God, and then you could join the group. But they took that Oxford principle and consulted with like Freud and some other like the really big psychologists back then, and kind of came to the idea of AA that's like, you have to believe in something that's not yourself. That's the main thing. Because like you yourself are powerless over whatever substance you're consuming. So the idea of God kind of comes in for people that can't find a power that is not themselves, that is not, you know, directly God or religious. So it's kind of like for people that can't find their own spiritual principles or spiritual idea, they just kind of put God in the place because it's easiest for them to understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm not completely making sense. You have to choose something above yourself, but not necessarily God. So I could go into AA and be like, I turn myself over to Andrew Tate, right? He just,
I mean, you know, if you're God, you're God. I mean, that's pretty alpha move.
You can only do that if you really mean it, though. Like if I'm running AA. No. If I see you over by the complimentary donuts and coffee in the back, which, by the way, are at the end of the meeting, okay?
You're not the boss of me. Andrew Tate is.
Okay? You've had 3 donuts, sir. Okay? Like, calm down. You brought your own coffee cup. All right? Is it a Yeti? Fucking asshole in here.
Filling up your coffee.
I came here to rent a Bugatti. That's
how many sugar packets are in your pocket, you piece of shit?
Like, no, I just find that I get what I find that I get what I need out of this in the first 45 to 50 seconds. Goodbye. This fucking guy, I don't even think he drinks.
He's here for free donuts.
He just bounced over from Overeaters Anonymous. He's eating our shit.
You ever seen somebody come in a restaurant and actually scoop like tons of the complimentary stuff that's for customers? Straws, ketchup, sugars, salts, creamers, shit like that.
My dad.
You know what would be fun? It'd be fun to go to Overeaters Anonymous, claim that you're like 18 months sober, but not lose a fucking pound. Just like
sounds like a Richard
I've been killing
there.
it. I haven't eaten too much in a year and a half.
you just go to Overeaters Anonymous when you're feeling down on yourself.
Or if you're heavy, go to the bulimia place and tell them how you defeated it. Have these really inspiring speeches where you're in front of everybody and you're like, I weighed 100 pounds. And then you start going off about like how you beat it. By the end, they're gonna be crying.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like Theoden on the fucking rattling the spears.
It was terrible. I was gut. I was having sex 7 times a week with a different person every night.
No, bulimia. Then you're not a woman either. You're not a bulimic woman. A bulimic man. You
I also feel like Overeaters Anonymous would be the easiest one to like fake. Like you go into AA drunk, everyone's like, oh, he's shit faced. You go into fucking AA, like Overeaters Anonymous, that like busting out the scale, like, oh, you gained 3 pounds this week. We got to test it to make sure you're actually committed.
Easiest to fake in the short term. Like I can get drunk today and show up at AA tomorrow acting like a superstar. but I can't overeat.
What a huge waste of your time to show up to these meetings
when
you don't need to show up for them.
I imagine there's no way to show up to an AA meeting drunk. They bet they gotta have noses and like eyes for it, like hound dogs. Like, hey, you're a little. You had 2 beers earlier, didn't you? I can tell.
I haven't had it
with plenty of mentally ill people. They would think you were among them.
I don't drink much at all. I'm sure I haven't had anything since like summertime. I should just show up and ask for chips. I need a 6-month chip.
There's principles within the program that are good for everyone. Like there's stuff you can apply to like better your daily life, especially for someone who's not motivated or doesn't have like, an active set of something you're trying to achieve of like goals. There is sets of the program that are like really good for inspiring people and motivating people that were gutter, bottom of the floor drunks. Mm-hmm. So they are applicable to a lot of other areas of life, but it would be it would literally pretty much be torture going to one of those meetings not being an alcoholic.
I wanted to ask one more thing about that, because I know you, Josh, you do Strain Central, you do a lot of weed, cannabis content. And now I was checking before the show, you do like the alternative stuff. So that'll be fun when we do the ad read. We can talk about that a bit. How do AA and NA respond to that? Is their take kind of like, well, weed's not your problem, so that's not our bag. You're here for something else.
I think there's boundaries that I've set and maintain, and then also it's just in like you read a set of rules, right? And there's traditions that are surrounding, and in the tradition that says that our main purpose and our main core is to specifically for AA abstain from alcohol. Mm-hmm. We're there to not drink. So our common purpose is to not drink. And that's usually anything regarding cannabis or even medication at that is an outside issue. So like if it was in NA and I was going to NA meetings and I wasn't like talking about it or didn't say anything about it, and I think the same would be with AA. Like if I didn't talk about it with people and wasn't open about the fact that I use it like a medicine, I'd be hiding something. So there's like little lies that end up being told, and like it's a program regarding truthfulness. So it kind of just comes down to like being true with how I use it and everything like that. There's definitely some old heads that have 10 years that are like, you're not sober. You're smoking weed, so you're not sober. And I respect their view, but it's one of those things that weed, I've learned, will not kill me. It might make me lazy. It might affect my drive and stuff like that.
When they do that, you should call them out for drinking coffee.
Right.
Caffeine's a drug too, you fucking bigot. Always drive that. People hate being called a bigot.
Right.
It's big
and then I would feel like I had blue hair and I was on Twitter if I was dropping words like big.
What you do is you make a burner account on Twitter as them. You say something racist. You screenshot your burner account and send it to
our fans. Are all going to retweet it. It'll be great.
And that's how activism is done. that's activism, and that's politics.